start off with one ostinato. That's the thing that doesn't change, it stays the same. And one thing that is changing. Let's say you're playing just like 1, 2, just quarter notes. Cool. Now, what you're gonna try and do is maybe make it so that your left hand is independent of your right hand. So you'd set a metronome, and you just sit here and just like play this over and over. And then you try and do something else while you do this. So like talking, or maybe moving your hand, or maybe signing your name without it like all of a sudden turning into a weird syncopated rhythm or whatever. Or maybe just like put like a bunch of coins or beads or something and just like try and like arrange them into like a house, arrange it into a smiley face. Like just do things with the limb that you want to be able to just like keep moving. Now we're gonna do permutations. What's a permutation? I'm glad you asked. You're gonna do a very basic one where you're just gonna play quarter notes. So you're gonna start on 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're just gonna keep doing this until you feel comfortable doing it. And you're like, cool, now 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You permutated. You 1, 2. Shift it over. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you eventually go to 4, etc. Cool. You're like, yay, I can play quarter notes. Now try something different. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2. So you put it in between the notes. And this might take you even a couple of days to get through this and be able to play just this one measure. And that's okay. We all start somewhere. So 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. In the limb independence section, we've got all of these different timing exercises. These are all permutations. So for example, this very first one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first two measures. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just went through maybe a week's worth of your time practicing, depending on like what your ability is, etc. And then you're like, cool, I can finally play the ones. Yeah, high five me. Now you're like, okay, well, I want to be able to play more complicated stuff. Oh, I got you here. So we've also got 2s. So instead of just playing one note at a time, you can go 1, 3, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 2, 3 and 4, and 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3, etc. So that could be a couple weeks worth of work to be able to play those. And then you can get into the 3s, etc. This is just like the intro of how to develop limb independence. And if you want like the full set of steps, you have to pay $190. I'm just kidding. You just go to this video, that how to develop limb independence, and it shows more complicated steps. And you get into 4-way independence. Almost got me with the price. I do get a lot of comments that are like, why do you give away thousands of exercises and 14 hours of drumming tips for free? Because drumming is expensive. Having spent a lot of money, 1, getting 3 degrees in music education, but 2, like studying with people privately, I want to create the resources that I wish I had. So I don't teach privately anymore. I don't have an app. I don't have books. I don't have courses that people sell, blah, 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 blah. The only thing I'm trying to do is just like create this content for free. My goal with all these is to make it AdSense supported. So with all these chop exercises, the 1,000+ grid variations, the limb independent stuff, the marching bass, the scores, the technique stuff, and then the 14 hours of drumming tips. So my goal is to make it so that it's AdSense supported. There technically are like over 400 videos that are currently scheduled for release. It's just early access. So there's like members first one, like this one comes out next Monday. You can like do 99 cents to get the early access, but like that's 100% optional because literally all of my content is guaranteed to come out for free. So you don't have to pay for that. Having spent the last couple of years like creating free content full time, I make less than $1 a day on YouTube with the AdSense. So the goal is to like eventually get hundreds of thousands of people using the resources daily. And then hopefully I can make what I was making as a teacher. But right now it's like way below minimum wage. So whenever people like ask me like, oh, I want to make play alongs too so I can become a billionaire YouTuber. Okay, here's the reality though. I've got over 2,000 videos that make me less than $1 a day. So good luck to you. Probably this whole stack is basically like drum kit books. And the vast majority of them are thinking vertically of what are your limbs doing when you stack them on top of each other, rather than thinking musically horizontally in phrases. And so what most drum kit instructors teach on like YouTube and even privately that I've seen, a lot of them focus on a beat, like playing a measure or a specific groove. You're then trying to find musical phrases that will match with that will pair with it, as opposed to the limb independence way, where you are creating ostinato patterns, the things that just repeat on the right hand while you're doing this, and then what you end up doing is like something completely different with your left hand that's gonna like line up with like the bassist, or line up with the, I don't know, the trumpeter, whatever. So trying to get your limbs to create something that stays in time, that's the metronome for the rest of the ensemble and yourself, and then you are able to improvise with the limb independence with different melodies, whether you're doing like a short note on the snare drum and a long note on the bass drum, or vice versa. That approach is harder to develop and harder to teach, because you're not teaching like, here's a beat that we can learn today, and I want you to come back, Johnny, next week and be able to play that beat at this specific speed. That's easier to teach, but it has less applicability within an actual performance context or rehearsal context, where you have to figure out beats that match different types of music you're playing, as opposed to just going, oh, what's the style we're playing? Cool. Whatever you play, I'll build off of that. I will complement you. I feel like the drummer is there to enhance the music and support everybody else. Supporting with keeping time with the ostinato patterns that keep going, like on the ride pattern or whatever you're doing, but also to add in different melodies on top of that ostinato, on top of that interesting sounding metronome that like resonates with and complements and works with the other instruments that are in the ensemble. But most people don't teach that way because it's harder to teach that way. If you're selling one of these books, it's a whole lot easier to make it longer if you're just adding in a new permutation of a different beat. That's how they're able to like fill more content, to be able to sell the book more, to be able to get more people to buy it. What you normally do in a chart, like ding, 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 and if you're playing through this, you would do like maybe a like short notes on the snare drum, so eighth notes, and then anything longer than that you do on like the bass drum. So starting with like the first line, you have, or you might change that and be like, oh, now I want to actually play the short note on the bass drum, the long notes on the snare drum, etc. So this is how you'd like actually read through some charts. For several months, I sat like right here behind a drum set player who was like the first call for like all the like Broadway shows in Phoenix. He played in like a community jazz band. I could see his sheet music right here and just see what the ink on the page was, and then hear what he was playing. And then in between the songs, like I would just like ask him questions. It was kind of like a mentorship. Like obviously I asked him, hey, can I like sit right here? I wasn't just like creeping. But it was such a great experience to see like stuff like this, where it's the ink on the page, and then to be able to go, okay, how did that translate into what he decided to play or not to play? Why was he playing on the ride cymbal, and then he switched to playing on the China, and then switched over to here? And so like asking questions like that, he'd be like, oh, well, the China cymbal actually blends better with the timbre and the texture of the saxophone. So when the saxophone's playing the solo, instead of ding, 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 I go over and play on the China, which this isn't a China that I'm playing on. So it was a really cool experience for me over the course of months. Sit there and like learn from him. A couple times he would just like, all right, it's your turn. Here you go. And so like I'd have a chart and be like, here I go. And just like sit in with the jazz band and play stuff like this, where it's just like, okay, on the short notes, I'm going to play. And long notes, I'm going to play, etc. So it was such a cool experience, and I learned a lot from it.